So, Turning Red is the latest film from Pixar, and it's a coming of age animated story about growing up and kind of focusing on like the generational divide between parents and kids. Now, the most interesting I found about this film right off the bat is its setting. It takes place in roughly 2002 to 2003 Canada. And I found this interesting because like wow, that's a very specific time frame. I'm wondering why they did this. And then it actually connected when I realized that the director, Dami Shi, actually grew up during that time in Canada. So this is very much it's interesting. This is very much a personal story, I think, for her, on focusing about growing up during that time. And another interesting thing I think about that staging is that I think it's going to connect for a lot of parents and adults in their 30s right now, around that same age. Because, like, for one, yes, you will have the nostalgia angle, like they do address, stuff of the era like boy bands, digital pets, and what was it? Like the flip phones will come about. So on a nostalgic level, that's funny and fine. But on a bigger level, I think it's gonna have like a great influence of like trying to connect to adults, especially for like people who are parents, to realize like, oh, remember when you were that age and your parents made you feel awkward? Let's remember that. So when you have kids, it'll be something to take note of. So the film follows the 13-year-old Mei, voiced by Russell Xiang. She's a Chinese Canadian girl who basically she favors herself to be an adult right now. She is greatly looking forward to growing up, because apparently, like in Canada, as they explain in the opening of the film, and in May's opening monologue, if you're 13, you're basically recognized as an adult to ride the bus there, which is kind of cool. So she's very much about like growing up. She's like, oh man, I can't wait to grow up and to be the best. And the thing is, like, she really focuses on being the best in school. She has these extracurricular activities. She makes sure that she gets the best grades. And as we of course learn, this is more to impress her mother more than anything. And she's at that age when a lot of stuff starts changing for her. Like she has a bunch of an eccentric group of friends that she's very loyal to, but she can't quite understand why they're like she loves like the boy bands they're into. Like she gushes over them. She loves their music. But when it comes to having a crush on like an older boy that she meets at the convenience store, she's not. Like she feels like that's how I used to be, like, and I'm still like that. But of course, the more that she develops these feelings, she realizes like, I'm actually kind of like starting to look at boys in a different way now. And the thing is, like, if you go this route, it could easily go into like a romance story where it's like it's young love and trying to come to terms with yourself on that level. It could go that route, but it actually takes a different route when May's mother, Ming Li, voiced by Sandra Oh, discovers that her daughter is having these kind of certain thoughts about this boy at the convenience store. And basically, she proceeds to embarrass her daughter right in front of her. And May is just, she's horrified, she's shocked, and she's angry all at once. And can't figure out how to deal with these emotions. But because she spent this whole life being loyal to her mother, trying to prove herself to her, she basically holds it in. Basically like, okay, everything's fine. It's fine, she says through gritted teeth. And then, of course, the next morning, she finds out that she is a red panda. A giant red panda. And this surprises her because, like oh no, why is this happening? And of course, like, as she realizes that if she gets control of her emotions, she can control this beast. Beast form, I guess. So basically, she has to realize that she has to be content to hide this part of herself. Now, the way that this is set up, like, and a lot of people have speculated on this from the trailers, it's like, okay, is this an allegory for, for when women come of age with, having their periods? And the answer to that is not only yes, but yes and more to it than that. Because the thing is, when May first transforms into a red panda, She tries to hide it from her mother, and she hides in the bathroom. And because May is hiding in the bathroom, Ming immediately thinks that this is her being on her period. And she whips out this huge kit of like everything that she's been preparing for like this very moment. So like, yes, on like one level, the allegory of this film being about, women coming of age is stressed in the film. And it's like, it's made no bones about it. Like, yes, this is a part of the film and this is what we're trying to stress. But it does have like a bigger element of the generational divide here. Because the thing is like, I mean, like playing more into like the coming of age angle, May discovers that turning into a red panda is more of a generational thing. She learns that, it's not that unnatural. Like, I wasn't just cursed or unlucky. I mean, technically it is a generational curse, but it is something that, happens in her family. She realizes, okay, so it's not just me. Like, it's something that happens within her family. But then there's the realization that, okay, well, if all the other women in our family had this problem, then how do they deal with it? And their whole deal was basically like they concealed it. They didn't talk about it. They didn't address it until it came about. Basically, they left it off to like the last minute. And of course, May has to kind of learn that, well, the way to deal with this is to be more open about it and to not be ashamed of it. Because the thing is, like the other members of her family have tried to cover up their transformation into pandas, red pandas, rather. They want to try to cover this up because they feel like the certain like shame and guilt that came with it. Because like there's this whole mythology around it about how like, it was supposed to be, something that would help them, but ultimately over time it turned out to be more of a curse. And it's a great realization of trying to like, I mean, especially like in the final act when May comes to terms with herself, like the allegory becomes like a little bit like heavier with the relation to periods. But I do like how it becomes a little bit more than just like, being content with yourself. Like there's also this manner of, adults not understanding parents, which is kind of very much, it becomes very present in the climax of the film where Ming is basically ruining May's life, saying like, you have to conform to all my traditional ways, and May basically has to fight back against this to quell the monster within her mother. Now, all this, the way that I'm describing this, it makes it all seem like it's a very, very heavy and somber film. But the thing to keep in mind is like, it's a Pixar film. So, of course, it's going to have some funny elements to it. And this film is pretty uproarious. There are a lot of amazingly funny sequences. You can tell that they very much took a lot of influence from anime for like the very distinct style here. Like characters will be exaggerated. They'll kind of have those kind of like rounded features, big eyes. Especially the scenes where like people react to the red panda form. They get like the big, kind of like where like you can kind of see like universes in their eyeballs. That typical anime trope. And just like a lot of like hilarious sequences, just funny expressions. And just like, and little things from like the era that like people who grew up from that era will probably look at the screen and both kind of like smirk at, knowing like, okay, yeah, like people were big into boy bands back then. Yeah, they did react this way. Yes, we had the flip phones, we had the little digital pets and stuff like that, which are funny. I like the way that they use that in the film. And just like I love like all the like little details and the backgrounds that all look beautiful, especially like May's home of like this temple where they do all these like tours and try to like dress up as red pandas and talk all about the Chinese culture. There's all these little all the details in it are just like astounding, especially when they exaggerate the characters. They'll blow up their mouths or make their eyes transform and stuff like that. All these funny little elements here. So yes, it can still be as very much a charming film as much as it is a deeply like thematically important and poignant film. The same way that Pixar's best films have been. When you think of like Pixar's best films, I think of stuff like Inside Out, which was a funny adventure film, but also has a lot of somber and very heavy and important moments that focus on coming to terms with yourself, and that's very much the case with Turning Red as well. That's why I easily think that this is going to be up there as like with some of like the best Pixar films, just for what it taps into, what it's not afraid to tap into, and perhaps being the more relatable, for being very much like a contemporary film. Like it always feels like certain animated films, they want to try to like veer away from a reflection of the world by kind of like veering off into like different eras and different time frames and stuff like that. I'm only thinking of like kind of thinking of stuff with like Luca and Ryan the Last Dragon. And here's a film that, like, even though yes, it is set in kind of in the past of 2003, but it does carry like something more relatable, that a lot of adults can resonate with here. So yeah, I loved all the performances here. I gotta mention, like, there's a very brief role by James Hong, but I think James Hong kills it here. It's like a local elder who's kind of up on the lore. Without giving too much away, the way to quell the red panda inside May is basically with kind of like music. And it can be like any music. So of course, like, the boy bands will play a role in the big climax here. But I love the fact that James Hong says, like, well, everyone sings, traditional Chinese songs, but I like singing Burt Bacharach. And he just delivers it so perfectly. Like I said, I've said this with like the film Everything Everywhere All at Once, but James Hong, master of just like, straight-faced comedy, just knows how to dole it out just perfectly. And yeah, just the performances all around were great. Especially the kids. What was it? Like Miriam, who's like a Jewish Canadian tomboy. She has this with braces. She delivers a great performance by Ava Morse. Let's get Priya Mongol, the Indo-Canadian who basically has like this deadpan delivery to everything, which is perfect. It's a great counterbalance to like everyone else feels very manic and stressing everything, and she just kind of like shows up with like glazed eyes and the perfect dry deadpan delivery. And then with like the most energy is Abby Park, a Korean Canadian who is eccentric and just angry and has energy about everything. I guess the right word is passionate. She's passionate about everything. So having that great dynamic, kind of like, because it feels like, I guess like Miriam is kind of like a little bit more of like the brains here. She's like the most content of all like the characters here. So I love that dynamic between the four of them. And I love how their friendship plays like the biggest role in the film of trying to like let May feel comfortable with herself and feel like, she has more control of her life, which is brilliant. Because like at its heart, I mean, yes, like the film is about like, coming of age, but it's also about realizing the power of friendship more than anything. And not in kind of like a weird kind of like, friend, the basic tropish ways. Like it actually focuses on, it actually focuses on it in a way that makes it feel more important and meaningful than just like, the typical tropes of this genre. Bottom line, though, there's a lot that could be said about the film, but it's just like it's a very fun and groundbreaking and very stylized Pixar film that is very much going to be at the top of the list for a lot of people's best Pixar films, and it very much deserves to be up there. These are the types of films that Pixar should be making. Like, I was okay with Luca. Luca's an okay adventure and a funny little film about acceptance for children, but if you want like Pixar's got a lot of competition right now with stuff like like Sony's The Mitchells versus the Machines was amazing with its visuals and what it was trying to say. And Turning Red is very much the type of film that Pixar needs to be making more of. So I hope there'll be more like it. I hope Dami Shi makes more films like this and takes a bigger role at Pixar in making many more masterpieces like this.